breaking news from Adrian Wojnarowski. Apparently, James Harden and the Philadelphia 76ers are working on a trade that will send James Harden to another team. And one of the teams linked has been the New York Knicks. We're also going to look into Josh Hart, who recently made an important decision about his Knicks future. All of this and more today. But before we get started, guys, about 92% of you watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. We love creating content like this for you guys. If you love this type of content, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button because it could really support all the content that we're creating for you guys. And now, let's get started. The New York Knicks and the Los Angeles Clippers are apparently two teams linked with the Philadelphia 76ers discussing a James Harden trade. Woj shocked the world when he dropped this bomb on us. According to Adrian Wojnarowski, 76ers guard James Harden is picking up his $35.6 million option, and sides are beginning to work together in exploring trade scenarios. It's expected that Harden has played his last game for Philadelphia. This is a huge report, but he didn't stop there. After Woj did this, he dropped another bomb, and he reported the following. According to Adrian Wojnarowski, the Clippers and the Knicks are expected to be among the teams that'll engage with the Sixers on a potential James Harden trade. This is a massive Woj bombs coming out right now regarding James Harden. We thought that James Harden was going to go to Houston. We thought he was going to opt out, sign a new deal with Houston. But he didn't do that. Instead, he opted in. And that's a very good thing to note because he opted in, meaning that he's a rental now. Any team that trades for Harden right now knows that they have him for 1 year. And if they don't like the fit or don't want him, they can let him walk for nothing and he'll be off their books. Or if he does something very well, they can re-sign him depending on how he plays. But this is interesting because Harden could have actually walked for Philly. He didn't have to actually do an opt-in, but he opted in perhaps to allow Philly to trade him so Philly could get some assets in return. And the team that trades for him gets a guard like James Harden, who is an all-star and potentially can help make your team better. Shams also noted that Philadelphia didn't see James Harden as a long-term future asset. That's a huge note to put down there for Philadelphia because why would you trade for James Harden if you didn't think he was going to be that asset? Now, maybe initially they thought he was going to be that, but over the course of the season, watching how he played with Joel, but most importantly, watching the playoffs, watching those last two games against Boston. Oh my goodness. You see what you get with James Harden. And this is where I have to stop people really quick, and I got to put that reality hat back on. Some Knicks fans want James Harden. Some Knicks fans want any star that has done something important in this league. And I get that. When you haven't had a star for a while, you haven't won anything significant in a while, you're going to want to jump to make these superstar massive trades. And I understand that. The New York Knicks should absolutely not trade for James Harden. I understand the type of player he is. I understand his assist numbers. I even understand that he might be able to accept a secondary or third role on a team. I understand that. But I am not trading any assets to take on James Harden. Even though he's an expiring contract, even though it's not that much money for the long term because you have to pay him now, yes. But if he doesn't work out next season, you can let him walk and he won't hurt your books. I understand that. But I think the amount of assets you're going to have to give up to get Harden, what his contract is, what he has left remaining on that deal, and what he adds to your team doesn't equal Eastern Conference final team for the New York Knicks. If you add James Harden to the Knicks as presently constructed, and maybe you remove 2 or 3 of our young players, that is still not a lock to get you into Eastern Conference Finals. The Sixers had very good talent on their team this year. They had Joel Embiid who won an MVP, and Harden couldn't get that team to the Eastern Conference Finals. So you think he's going to help the Knicks get to the Eastern Conference Finals? No shot in hell. I don't want James Harden. I don't want these over their prime, past their age players. I don't want PG-13 for the same reasons I don't want James Harden. They're very good players. And if there's a structure around them, they can still be very effective players. But these are not players that you trade the house for to get them in your organization to build around. They are past their age to build around. At this point, they need to be added to contenders to help contenders compete. And they can't even be your second best player. Harden or Paul George would have to be your third best player, not your second if you're trading them to a team at this point, because we've seen them at the second best player. It doesn't work. It doesn't lead to championships. It doesn't lead to contention. You may be a quote-unquote contender, but you're not winning anything significant. And we've seen enough Harden to know that when the lights are on brightest, Harden shrinks. And he shrinks to such a small degree that you can barely find him. Why would we want to add somebody like that to our roster when we know in the playoffs we need more people who can show up and do the things you need them to do consistently? Harden has shown year after year after year that he can't do that. So why would the Knicks swing on a trade? It doesn't make sense. Here's the real reason I think the Knicks have been included in this quote-unquote discussion. I think the Clippers have always wanted James Harden. And there's actually been reports about this. According to Jake Fisher, the Clippers and the Sixers have been in contact this week, where a league source told Yahoo Sports in Los Angeles, among wide-ranging talks on Marcus Morris and Norman Powell. And they've approached Philadelphia on separate ideas of trading for James Harden and Tobias Harris.
Even though Woj mentioned that the New York Knicks and the Clippers had interest, Ian Bagley of SNY reported that the Knicks' interest is far from uniform throughout the organization, whereas the Clippers have a stronger interest.
The reason the Knicks have been added to this is to up Harden's value. Because now the Sixers can say, okay, Clippers, you don't want Harden? Well, I heard the Knicks want Harden, and the Knicks have all these assets, and the Knicks potentially could give me this, and that. So Harden doesn't have as much value by himself, but when you include another team or a few teams that quote unquote might be interested in James Harden, and you look at those teams, you look at who they are and the assets that they have, it may influence you to give up a little bit more so you can secure and make sure that you get that asset versus potentially giving an offer that's a little too low and then losing your shot at getting Harden at all. Let me say this definitively about the Harden to Knicks situation. James Harden will not be a New York Knick come next season. It's most likely and probable that when next season starts, you'll see James Harden suit up as a Los Angeles Clipper. Josh Hart apparently has opted in to his $12.9 million option. According to Shams of The Athletic, Josh Hart has opted into his $12.9 million contract for the 2023-2024 NBA season. So this means that Josh Hart will be a New York Knick at least for one more season at $12.9 million. This is a great report, but not something that we're shocked about, because for the last few videos and over the last few days, we've basically been saying and reporting that we think Josh Hart is going to opt in because he extended his contract negotiation talks all the way till Thursday. So I think a lot of people were gearing up for that. I also think a lot of people expected Josh Hart to re-sign with New York for a number of reasons, just because of one, the fit, two, the relationship. But check out this little interview he had with Zach Braziller of the New York Post. He said the following to Zach: "I want a home. I want to find a home. This is a place where I would love that home to be. On the court, there are so many things that align with my principles as a player, and off the court, just being around with friends and close to family, this would be an amazing spot. Hopefully, they feel the same." Josh, New York feels the same. Leon Rose feels the same. The organization feels the same. They love you. They want to keep you. And because they did this with Josh Hart, and Josh Hart has opted into his contract for $12.9, it more or less signals now that Dante DiVincenzo, a free agent that's been linked to the Knicks for the last couple of days, maybe even weeks even, is likely going to be a New York Knick. Dante DiVincenzo declined his $4.7 million option with the Golden State Warriors. So on Friday at 6 p.m., he will become an unrestricted free agent. And the New York Knicks are going to call and likely sign and add Dante DiVincenzo to the roster. That's why I believe Josh Hart opted in to his contract. There's no reason for Josh Hart to opt in. Opting in for Josh Hart leaves money on the table for him. So there's no reason for Josh Hart to opt in. The only way it makes sense is in this way. The New York Knicks have worked out a deal where Josh Hart opts in. They add Dante DiVincenzo, a good fit, a good person who has relationships with Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson, somebody Josh Hart has been trying to recruit to New York for the last few weeks. So that makes sense and that works. But now, what about the money that Josh Hart left on the table? Well, he is extension eligible for a 4-year, $80+ million contract. I don't know if he's going to get the full $80 million. If he's extension eligible to that amount, then whatever the number may be that he left on the table in terms of money, he's going to get that back and so much more with that new contract that he gets from the New York Knicks. Because I think that's exactly what happened here. And this is the sequence of events here. Hart opts in. DiVincenzo signs with the New York Knicks because now the Knicks have access to their full non-taxpayer mid-level exception of $12.4 million, which they're going to use to sign DiVincenzo. And then after that, a little bit later on, Josh Hart will sign an extension with the New York Knicks, probably worth upwards to $80 million, I'm thinking. I know that's a lot to pay Josh Hart. I'm just saying what I think might be the option. And that's likely the sequence of events that's going to happen. Josh Hart was important and was a very important piece for the New York Knicks. We gave him a draft pick for him. If anything, if you include the Cam Reddish situation into this, we basically gave up 2 first-round picks to get Josh Hart. I think management knows that and understands that too, and I think that they would not let him walk because of that. I think because of that reason, you're going to see him get an extension from the New York Knicks. You might not like the number, but regardless of the number, Josh Hart is likely to be a New York Knick for next season, but for many, many seasons to come. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a comment below, smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knick fans. Peace.